we move on to the action phase of turn 9, 10, whatever it is, I don't remember. Lola is up first, and there's not much she can do. Let's see here. Okay, so for her first action, she's going to discard this lore upgrade token, and that's her component action. So that's the first thing she's going to do. And you know what? It's the last thing she's going to do. She's going to choose not to take a second action. I really just want to beat this monster and try and solve this last mystery. Okay, so on the Silas. Silas is first going to take... He's going to prepare for travel and he's going to take a ship token. So Silas's first action is going to be his component action, which allows him to move one space along a ship lane and then do an additional action. So he's going to move from Sydney to space 18. Okay. And then his additional action is going to travel. He's going to use his ship token here. And he's going to move from space 18 to space 15 and then up to space 10. Okay. We are done with the action phase. We move into the encounter phase. Lola here is once again going to try and defeat this monster. So, she has 4 will. Alright. And she's going to see what happens. And she doesn't get one single success. You gotta be kidding me. Alright, so we subtract 2 sanity. She's down to 1. Okay, so now we roll 1 die. And remember, we have to get a 5 or a 6 to defeat this monster. So let's see what happens. 2. So she fails again. Alright, over to Silas. Silas is going to try and get this clue token here. Okay, so he is in the wilderness. And if we look on the card here in the wilderness, it says, you ask the villagers about their peculiar folklore. Test your influence. So Silas's influence is 3. We will roll 3 dice. And he passes. And it says, if you pass, you recognize references to cannibalistic rituals in honor of Azathoth. Gain this clue token. Alright, so we gained the clue token. Okay, so on to the Mythos phase. Okay, so we moved the Doom track up, or come on, what is it? Omen track. Okay, we move the Omen track up. Okay, Sydney and Arkham both have the red comment on it. We go down to 3. Okay. We spawn some monsters on them gates. So for Sydney, we have a ghoul. Let me put it over here. And for Arkham, we have a skeleton. Okay, and then we spawn a clue token. And it goes on spot 15. Okay, boink. Okay, and it is Rising Terror. The full moon seems to stir the blood of every beast. Even listless old hounds seem possessed by the spirit of some feral ancestor, vicious and cruel. Okay, so it says resolve the reckoning effect on each monster on the game board. If there are no monsters on the game board with a reckoning effect, advance the doom by 1. Okay. What the hell? So, let's see. Okay, so the Warlock has a reckoning effect in Istanbul. It says, roll 1 die. On a 1 or a 2, the nearest investigator gains a curse condition. Okay, so that I knocked the clue token off the board. Here we go. 1 die, and he gets 1. Alright, so let's see. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's a split. I guess we'll give it to Silas. Okay, so Silas has a curse condition. Only 6 counts as successes on his test. And then if he would gain another condition, flip this card, and we resolve whatever on the back. Alright. You know what? I'm not going to give it to Silas. I'm going to give it to Lola. Alright. And the reason being is she has this holy water. On her next turn, she can use an action to discard this card and get a blessed condition, which will discard the curse condition. Alright. And then finally, we have the Shoggoth here. And he says this monster recovers all health. He didn't lose any. Okay. Oh, wait. Over in San Francisco, we have the Dark Young here. And it says roll 1 die on a 1 or 2. Advance the doom by 1. Okay. So let's get a 4. And we get a 1. You gotta be kidding me. Alright, we're so close. Okay, so that's the end of the mythos phase. On to the next phase, the action phase. Lola, she's gonna move to the city. Okay, she's got to rest. And then for her second action, she's going to discard this holy water. And then she'll be able to discard this, not the madness condition. She will then be able to discard the curse condition. Okay, so we shuffle these back into the decks. No, we don't. Actually, I made a mistake. When Mark got devoured, we should have just discarded the items. Okay, so that's the end of Lola. It's the end of her turn anyway. Goes on to Silas here. And I gotta decide on what to do with Silas. Now, what I would like to do, he needs another clue token. So what I think I want to do is, I could go up to Lola and then trade with her on my next turn. I could go to the pyramids, try and get that clue token, or I could come down here, try and get this clue token. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move down here. Okay, and then I'm going to take the extra action. I'm going to get a railroad ticket. Okay. And my hope is I'll get the clue token and then use a special, as component action. The next turn go here, then use the railroad ticket to go here. Or am I doing this wrong? Let's see. Yeah, because if he did this, it's 1, and then... Yeah, I think that's the shortest route there. Okay, so the encounter phase. Lola is just going to do a generic city encounter. Alright, so a shady figure offers to sell you a weapon. No questions asked. You speak with him to determine his motives. Test your influence. So our influence is 4. There we go. And she passes. Now she passes. Alright. If you pass, gain 1 random weapon asset from the deck. Alright, so. Okay, so Lola gets the Spirit Dagger. It's a magical weapon. She can gain +1 will and +2 strength during a combat encounter. Shuffle up the asset deck. I'll put that back. And being when Mark got devoured, I forgot that this card is equipment instead of shuffling the deck. I took out what I remembered he had, and I'm going to put it in a discard pile there. So that's the end of Lola's encounter phase. On the Silas here, let's see what he has. Silas is in a city. So, It says a few hours before the performance of the opera Messa di Requiem per Shugay, you have a chance to examine the libretto. Test your lore, and his lore sucks. It's only a 1. So let's see what we get here. And he wins. He passes. If you pass, you recognize that it's a ritual that honors Azathoth and stop the performance. Gain this clue. Okay, so he gains his clue. He now has enough to go up there and try and do what he does. Alright? He has enough to try and solve this third mystery. Okay, so now we go to the mythos phase. And so here we go. We move the Omen track. Goes to the Blue Comet. Doom track comes down by 1. Because of Buenos Aires there. Okay, we do the Reckoning. So, monsters. This from Monster recovers all health. Shaggy there. Alright, for the Dark Young, we have to roll 1 die on a 1 or 2. We advance the Doom by 1. So let's see. Come on, 3. 6, I'll take that. That's fine. Okay. The Warlock. Lola here's going to gain a curse, unfortunately. Okay. Return to the shuffle the deck, put it back. Lola gains her curse condition there. Same as last time, only 6 counts as a success. Okay, we move on to Azathoth here. Nothing goes there. The Mythos card here, we draw another monster. Place it on 19. Okay, we get a Cultist. And then we go over here to Lola. Okay, so first, she has this hallucination. We have to roll. We gotta test her will. And if she fails, we gotta flip the card over. So, she gets 4 dice. And she passes. Okay. Then we move on to the curse. She has to roll 1 die. On a 4, 5, or 6, she could discard this. So let's see here. And she gets a 1. So she keeps the curse. We now spawn a gate. Goes the room. Okay, we get a witch. And it is Ancient Guardians. Okay. An article on the back page of the newspaper catches your attention. An unexplained attack on a remote outpost left no survivors. You read about 2 other similar attacks happening in the same region. You can see that the forgotten corners of the globe are growing more dangerous. It's an event. We spawn 2 monsters on the active expedition space. That really sucks. Alright. So here we go. What do we got? Okay, number 1 is a Cultist. Okay. And the second one is a Deep One. Okay. That's a lot of fighting there. Okay, on to Lola. Okay, the first thing she's going to do, she's going to try and acquire assets. She's going to try and get this private care so she could gain all of her health and sanity back. Okay? So let's see. She has 4 influence. Roll 4 dice. Let's go. She got 2 successes. That's all she needed. She gains this private care. And then she's back to full health and sanity. So 6. 7 sanity. Okay. And then we draw the Urban Guide. It's an ally. If you are in a city space, investigators on the space may roll 1 additional die when resolving tests, except for when resolving other world encounters. Cost 4 successes to buy it. Okay, discard the private care. And for her second action, she's going to move. She's going to go back here and hopefully beat up a lot of monsters. We'll see. She's got to encounter. Okay, being that she's on a space with more than one monster, she has to encounter each one. Okay, she could choose whatever one she wants to do first, but she has to encounter them all. Okay, now for Silas. His first action is he's going to take another train ticket. Okay, he's going to prepare for travel again. And then his second action, he's going to use his component action. He's going to move along the sea space. And then for his additional action, he's going to travel, spending both train tickets. And go from 17 to Istanbul. So that's 1 movement, 1 train ticket, 2 train tickets. Okay, so let's see if we can do this. Alright. Okay, so on the encounter phase, Lola goes first. First thing she's going to do is she's going to attack the cultist. Okay, and if we remember, we refer to the sheet. She's got to do the horror check. If she passes, she loses 1 health and she kills the cultist. Okay, so her will is 4. So we roll 4 dice. She gets 1 success. She loses 1 health. Cultist goes bye-bye. I grabbed the wrong cultist. That cultist stays. This one goes bye-bye. Alright. Next, she's going to go for the deep one. Let's see what the deep one is. Okay, so we had to do a hard check. We got to get 2. She gets 2, so she doesn't lose any sanity. Okay, so the higher of the 2 cards here between the 45 and the Spirit Dagger is the 45 with +3. So she's got a strength at 2, so that's 2 dice. Then we get 3 for the 45, -1 for the deep one's modifier here. Okay, so she needs 2 successes. And she gets 2 successes. She beats the deep one. Okay, deep one goes away. Okay, so now we have the color one. We do a sanity check. So she has 4 sanity. And she's going to roll 1 extra because of her special ability. So that's 5 dice. She needs 2 successes. And she doesn't get it. She gets 1 success. Okay, so she loses 1 sanity. Alright, and now we roll 1 die. We need a 5 or a 6. Come on, Lola. And she gets a 3. Alright, so we move on to Silas here. Silas has 3 will. Let's see what he gets. Nada. So he takes 2 loss insanity. And then we roll 1 die. All he needs is a 5. And he gets 1. This monster. Alright. So that's the end of the encounter phase. Move on to the Mythos phase. And we just lost the game. We moved the the Omen track by 1. Goes down to 0. It would actually go to -1 because of this here, this Eldritch token there. Okay, so as a Thoth awakens and The world is devoured. Okay? Earthquake and volcano eruptions tear the Earth crust apart at a rate faster than the devastation can be recorded or comprehended. As the planet's atmosphere grows increasingly toxic, the insects of Shagai return to their ship and teleport away, anxious to doom a different world. Eventually, when every living thing on the planet has been reduced to a cinder, a new outer god emerges from the ruins and joins Athas's court at the center of all things. The investigators lose the game. So, folks, so close. That's part of the game, though. You know, it's chance. It's I'm sure I could have done a few things differently. You know, with Azathos, it's just a race. It's a race. Well, with all of them, it's a race to beat the Doom track. But especially with Azathos, it's a race to get them 3 mysteries solved before he wakes up. So, you know, leave comments, like the video if you want to. It helps spread the word of what I'm doing here. You know, leave comments. You can contact me on YouTube at Agatewaygamer@gmail.com. At the guild at Board Game Geek, it's a Gateway Gamer guild. You know, any thoughts, comments, leave them there. I'll read them, try and get back to you. So, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Hey folks, Barry Reynolds here, Gateway Gamer. We have the obligatory game collection scene behind me. I figured I'd change it up a little bit. Okay, so today we did Eldritch Horror. Okay, better looking at the cover art than my ugly mug anyway. But anyway, there's a couple notes about this game first, okay? If you like Euros, this may not be the game for you. If you do not like chance, this may not be the game for you. If you like to be able to plan in advance what you want to do, this may not be the game for you. If you do not like losing, this may not be the game for you. And finally, if you love Eldritch or Arkham Horror, this may not be the game for you. While it is similar to Arkham, there's a lot of differences, and we'll get into that. Okay, so this has been one of the toughest, actually, it's the toughest game I've done. For a couple reasons. One is just the complexity of it. This is by no means a gateway game, not at all. But once you get the rules down, it's pretty easy going. It's just, there's a lot of little rules, you know, a lot of modifiers, a lot of, you know, this card will change the effect of this and blah, 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 stuff like that. Technically, it was tough to film. It was, the board is huge, you know, just, it takes up so much table room. I actually made a rig for the overhead shots where it's like a piece of PVC, and then I could slide the camera back and forth on that, so you could, you know, it wouldn't get in the way, because 2 tripods, forget it, especially when you have one on top of each other. I did fool around with that, not a good idea. So there's that, and then there's which ancient one I wanted to do, and I went back and forth with this a lot. Originally, when I decided to do this over almost 2 months ago now, I was going back and forth on the ancient one because at the time nobody did a run through of them. You know, nobody did a gameplay of them. Since then, there have been quite a few people who've done one. I know Tim Norris did one. It's Grey Elephant there. Lonesome Gamer did one. You know, with Cthulhu. You know, Tim did it with Azathoth. Lonesome Gamer did it with Cthulhu. The Aussie Tragic the Blathering. He did one with Shub Niggurath. So did Rodder. Rodder did one with Shub Niggurath.
And there's a couple others floating around. Sorry, I can't remember the names of the guys who did them, but so the problem I had was, being that this game has so few cards and it's so story driven, or I should say event driven, and I'll get into why in a couple minutes, but I didn't want to spoil the game for anybody. You know, being that there's only 4 ancient ones and there's, you know, this many cards for this ancient one and blah, blah, blah. So I went back and forth with that for a while. And I ended up doing Azathoth. I originally didn't. I did Yog. Or Shub. Who was it? I think it was Yagi. The second hardest one, you know. The second easiest one up. Not Azathoth, the one right above him with the time on the Doom track. I did him. And for like me, I can't remember his name right now. But I did him, and I got about 5 or 6 turns into it, maybe 7. I don't remember. It's hard to keep track of turns in this. But in that time, I had 2 rumor cards. And the rumor cards ended the game for me. It just stopped it, you know. I find when you get a rumor card, you have to stop what you're doing and tackle them right away. But the problem was, it happened so early in the game that I couldn't build up my investigators enough to defeat this one monster that came out. And then every time a reckoning phase came along, I had to remove an Eldritch token from the one rumor, and they ran out, and basically it ended the game. So, you know, it's a balancing act there with, you know, when do I build up my investigators? When do I switch gears and just focus on finishing the mysteries? You know, a rumor card came out, I got to stop and handle that. You know, it's a balancing act. And them mythos cards, them rumor cards are brutal. Like I said, you got to stop what you're doing right away and handle them. You know, so I went through that, a run through, and it ended the game, and I stopped. And the reason I didn't was because I wanted to show more of what the game was than just doing Azathoth. You know, we know with Azathoth, when the Doom track runs to 0, you flip them over, you know it ends the world. You know, I want to do more. I want to show more of the game than that. I want to show what it was like to fight an elder or an ancient one. You know, and like I said, when I was going back and forth on doing it, that's the reason I picked, I think it was Yagi. It might have been Shelby. I forget which one it was. But since then, all these guys came out with the video. So I figured, all right, I'm just going to go back to Azathoth and show the basic gameplay of the game with the basic ancient one. You know, so that's why I did Azathoth. But originally, this game was supposed to be done when the last video was done, when K2 was done. Originally, I was going to hold off on Flashpoint. I was going to do K2 then, and then do Eldritch Horror when K2 came out. But the reasons I didn't is I didn't feel as though I knew the rules well enough on K2 or Eldritch Horror to put them out when I did. So that's why Flashpoint came out. But anyway. Okay, first off, I just want to say I love this game. I really do. So much so that I'm having a contest so you can win your own copy. And you can look at the link for that. It'll be in here somewhere or down in the description. The link will be up for the video for that. Or you could always go over to Agatewaygamer Guild on BGG, Board Game Geek. Go to my guild. The rules will be up there. All right. But anyway, I said it's similar to Arkham Horror, and it is. You got the basic Cthulhu mythos. A lot of the characters are the same. You know, the investigators and the ancient ones. They're all the same. But Eldritch Horror took a lot of the complex, convoluted rules of Arkham Horror and threw them away and streamlined the game. You know, it really did. And I think I like this better than Arkham. I really do. Like I said, it took that funny sliding the pill thingy on the investigator stats on Arkham Horror and got rid of that. That was always annoying to me. Because you bump the table, they go over the place, you got to remember where it was, and then stuff like that. And it took the mythos from Arkham, the city of Arkham, to the entire world, which is really interesting. This game is a lot more, I don't want to say story driven, it's more encounter driven than Arkham. It is story driven to a sense, but it's sort of like Arkham, where there's a bunch of randomness in the story. It's like if you took Stephen King's Dark Tower series, right, and you took the final few pages from the last book, and you ripped the pages out and you set it aside, and then you took the other books and you ripped all the pages out and you shuffled them all together, and then you put the ending of the series back in the back of what you shuffled together, and you try to read it. That's similar to what's going on in Eldritch Horror. It's story driven, yeah, but then you got just some weird off the wall stuff happening, and it's unrelated to the mystery you're trying to solve. You do an encounter, and next thing you know, you're in a store that's being robbed, and the cops are trying to frame you for it, and stuff like that. It's but that doesn't bother me too much. It is what it is. It's chaotic. The game's very chaotic, very luck driven, and it's just, if you're going into this like a Euro, if you don't like Ameritrash games, this isn't going to be the game for you. If you're going into it like, I have to win, I have to do this, and this to win, I got to be real efficient, this isn't the game for you. You're just going along for the ride, basically. You're just chucking the dice and sees what happens. And that's basically what the game is. I love it. Jen, not so much. Jen thought she thought there was more steps to this than there was in Arkham, and I don't see that. But Jen's only played it twice, and I've only played it twice with other people. I played it once with Jen, which was the learning game, and then the second time I played with my sister and Jen, which was my sister's learning game, and then Jen was her second game. And it took a lot longer than I thought. I thought this game would shorten the time with Arkham Horror. The time that it takes to play Arkham Horror, I thought it would be shorter than that. And I can see if you have players who play religiously, that would happen. Not by much, but I think it would shorten the time. I don't think it shortens it that much with people who are new to the game or don't play it as often as people who play like Arkham religiously. All right. But I love the fact that, there's still only one way to win, which is that's all cooperative games. There's usually one way to win, many ways to die. And with this one, you win by solving 3 mysteries or a 4th mystery if the Ancient One wakes up and you have the option to solve the mystery. Not all of them do. But the conditions I think are a great add-on to the game. It's the cards themselves, them double-sided cards, it's them and the spell cards, they're a pain. They really are. You gotta draw from the bottom of the deck, and you gotta shuffle them every time you draw from it. But I'm sure there's ways to get around it. Maybe if you place the cards on their side and then draw from one end, something like that. But I find them cards are a pain. But the conditions are you never know what you're going to get. You could get a blessing, which I think is the only good condition you can get, or it goes from bad to really bad. And I enjoy it. It's another element of chance that goes along with the game. And then you got the whole reckoning effect, where certain things could happen with the conditions. that could be bad or really bad, depending. Yeah. Same with the spell cards. I like that not only can you, do a test to use the spell card, but then depending on your results, you flip it and then something, usually bad, but something good could happen depending on the results, or something not as bad. Yeah. So yeah, I think they're a good addition to the mythos. The travel tokens, I think they're cool. It's they limit you to 2 actions per round. And I could see that to try and cut down on the time. And these travel tokens allow you to move a little further, where instead of just inching your way along, you can move a little further with the travel tokens. And I think it's especially important in a 2-player game. I've played this game solo most of the time, and I played it, 10 times or so. But I found that the game is a lot tougher with 2 investigators as opposed to, I think 4 is the sweet spot with this game. It's just tougher to get across the world. It's tougher to get to the locations, and it's tougher to, if there's a bunch of monsters on one space, it's tougher to chip away at them. And that's another thing I like about the game. You don't have to fight a monster to the death like you did in Arkham. You could encounter them once and then run away the next turn. I think that's a good addition to the game. Now, there are some things I didn't like about the game. First, like I said, them double-sided spell and condition cards, they're a pain. Next is, I don't think, like I said, I played the game about 10 times. There's not enough encounter cards. You start to see the same one over and over again. And I'm sure this is Fantasy Flight. There's going to be expansions. I'd be surprised if they don't have one in the works now. I'm sure like 6 months from now, we're going to see the first expansion. So that'll solve the issue with the cards and the ancient ones. There's only 4. I'm sure they're going to, expand out the wazoo with them. Another thing, and again, I don't know if there is an expansion, and if there is, if this will solve it, but I don't think that the locations are utilized enough unless you're in a city. If you're in the wilderness or a sea, unless you have to go there for a rumor or something to that effect, you're not going to go there. You're just going to go through it to get to a city. Now, the wilderness, you get the expeditions on it, but, when you do the expeditions, there's a good chance you're going to get messed up pretty bad. The rewards are a lot greater, but you're going to get messed up. So, you could kind of just avoid them. And the sea spots, I think I've been to an encounter on a sea spot like 3 or 4 times, and a lot of that was just because my turn ended there. I was going through a sea spot to get to another location, and I just ended my movement there. So, like I said, I think, an expansion will fix that. If they plan to do that, I don't know. The artwork, I like that old mappy artwork, as you remember from Letters from Whitechapel. I like that style, and the artwork on this one is great. The map is great. It's got that old style to it. It's it's got all that little artwork inside of it, like ships and stuff like that. The board is very easy to play with. Some boards, I like games for their artwork. It's one of the reasons I buy them, and the component quality. And some boards are just too busy, and it takes a while to get over that, if you can at all. And the components are great. Nice thick card stock. The board is great. The tokens, are great. One thing about the components, the dice. I understand why they did it. There's only 4 dice. And a lot of times when you're doing some of these, skill checks, you're going to use more than 4. That's why I used the ones from Arkham in this one. That and they're a little chunkier. I like chunkier dice better than them little ones. But I understand why they did it. They did it to cut back on cost. But, how much could 4 more dice cost? Really? The standy things, if they're good standees, I don't mind them. And they're pretty decent standees in this game. I think I would prefer miniatures, but I know why they didn't do it. They want to sell you the $300-400 sets that they sell, of miniatures. That you could actually get in. Mansion of Madness has them, some of them, not all of them, but I think it would be more interesting with miniatures. And if I do a game like this again with the overhead shot, I'm going to lay them on their side next time. I know there's a little bit of a problem seeing them. Yeah, I did that when I went through it after the editing or during the editing. Yeah. What else? The time is. I bought this thinking it would be shorter than Arkham Horror, and I thought Jen would get into it. This is a game that I think is somewhere between Mansions of Madness and Arkham Horror. I think it's somewhere in the middle there. And Jen likes Mansions of Madness, She doesn't like Arkham. And I think it's for the same reason. She's not really big into the Cthulhu mythos, but I think it's the length of the game that gets her. And that's a mistake I made with Arkham in this. And Battlestar Galactica, it's just, this game will probably never get played with somebody else again. Yeah. I'm going to keep it and I'll play solo because, like I said, I love the game. But this game, it probably will not get played with somebody else again. My sister wasn't thrilled about it. Again, I think it's because of the length. Granted, they haven't played the game as much as I have, so, pick up speed with it. This run through here is probably going to be 2.5, 3 hours. And that's about how long the game will take. Granted, I'm stopping, I'm explaining stuff, what I'm doing, blah, 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 but when you're playing the game with other people in a group, you're going to be discussing your moves and whatnot anyway. So I think it's a pretty accurate representation of how long the game will play. Yeah. Granted, the more players you have, the longer it'll take, but it's not a quick filler game by any means. And then so that's one of the mistakes I made in my gaming. It's getting longer games like this. And I think trying to jump from a gateway game to something more complex, which Arkham Horror is, or Eldritch Horror is, rather. It is not a gateway game by any means. It's probably the most complex game I've done a video for, both in the rule sets and just like filming it wise. I made a big rig, this rig on the light tower I showed you in an earlier video. I made a rig where I can hang the camera from above and slide it back and forth on this piece of PVC, basically. Just so I could try and get the whole board in, because the board is huge, and then all the cards and all that, it takes up a lot of table space. And again, I thought it would be better than Arkham with that, and it's not. Same amount of space. There is probably as many cards in this as there is in Arkham. Probably as many tokens, probably. I'm not exactly sure, but probably. So it takes up just as much room. It takes all the convoluted, complex rules of Arkham Horror and throws it out the window. Makes it very streamlined. You only get 2 actions per turn, and then you do a mythos phase, an encounter phase, and then a mythos phase. 3 easy phases. And like I said, it just took out some of the weird, strange rules. Like, in Arkham, you can turtle, I guess is the term. I think it's turtle. I'm not 100% on it, but you could basically stay at the shop. I forget the name of it, and just sit there and collect items. And in this, you can't do that. you're racing against the clock, you know, so you just can't do that. You have to move around. You have to, you know, it does have their version of acquiring assets, which I think is pretty cool. You know, got rid of all that money tokens, and now you just roll the dice, you get a success. You know, you could buy this item. If you get more than that, you know, you could buy so many items. So that's a pretty cool thing. I like that the monsters, for the most part, they're static. So it's not like you're wasting all this time on beating up a monster, you know, when it's a race against the clock. And that's basically what the game comes down to. You're racing against the doom track. And, you know, in Arkham, you had to stay there and fight a monster till one of you died. They don't do that in this, which I think is another plus. You know, you can go in, you can encounter a monster. If you win, you can encounter the location. If you lose, you can just move the next turn. You know, no penalties or nothing, you just move. You know, so I think that's a good thing. There's the expeditions, you know. Granted, the outcome, you know, the if you succeed in an expedition, it's great. You know, you get souped up relic cards, you know, powerful cards. If you fail a lot of times, though, it's the penalty's pretty big. But, you know, that makes sense. You know, thematically, it makes sense. There's the whatchamacallits, the special abilities on each character. I like that they're totally different. You know, they're not too similar. I like that. You know, the component actions or special abilities in general. You know, are pretty cool that they're so different from each other. Because a lot of games you get like this. You know, a lot of games where a character has special abilities, there's a lot of them are similar. You know, this not so much. Now, another thing is the skills. In most cooperative games, there's the lead player, you know, the alpha gamer who's going to dictate. This, you can't really do that because of the skills with the encounters. You know, each encounter, granted, after a while you see that you need a certain skill to do this, most likely do this encounter successfully, this type of encounter successfully, but in the encounters, it's like if you are strong in lore and you pass the first part of the encounter, then you get tested again, especially the complex encounters. You get tested again, and then you have to be strong in strength or something, you know, totally different. So I like that it mixes it up, and you know, there's not, you can't go into the game saying, okay, I'm going to be the fighter, I'm going to be the spellcaster, I'm going to be the brain. You know, you can't really do that. So that's a plus, I think. All right, so that is my thoughts on Eldritch Horror. So, there's a couple new things that came up. You know, I have a couple new subscribers. I'd like to thank you. These guys are basically the reason I do this. If you didn't watch it, I wouldn't do it. You know, no point in it. But, you know, like I always say, leave comments. You know, it helps me improve, you know, what I'm doing here. You know, what people want, what they don't want, stuff like that. And it's always nice to hear an attaboy from somebody. Like, you know, click the likey thing, the thumbs up thingy. That, you know, helps drive up the volume of people watching this. You know, or, you know, it helps in the search engines, stuff like that. Subscribe, because it's always nice to have a new subscriber. And, you know, I do have two new things. I have a Twitter page, okay, a Twitter account, which is a Gatewaygamer at Twitter. and a Facebook page, which is a Gateway Gamer at Facebook. Okay. I'll leave links for them down there, and I'm also going to leave a link for the errata page for Eldritch Horror, and there's a couple player aids I used, and I'm going to look on Board Game Geek to see what the link was, and then I'll post them down there too. It's they helped me out a little bit learning the game. But anyway, like I said, like, subscribe, leave comments, leave feedback. Most of all, enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.